meeting will be on record, ma'am. It will be recorded, and
Okay.
recorded
Okay.
already. Recording has started, and
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I am waiting for the participants to join, and they will be joining shortly. I have given them time
You
that join
uh,
10
you
minutes before. Yeah.
okay. Okay. You let me know when I have to speak. I'll start speaking. Okay.
Yeah, ma'am. So definitely. So we have some that means an opening song and my welcome speech, principal
Yeah.
speech,
Yeah. I saw. I
guest
saw.
introduction. Yeah. Then your speech,
Mhm.
entirely your speech,
Okay.
and interactive session, and then lot of things. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I got through the program. I saw your
Yeah.
program. Yeah.
My HOD madam is there, and she can see you.
Namaskar.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good
Good morning,
morning.
ma'am.
Good morning. Good morning.
We are happy to see you, ma'am. You are
Uh,
most welcome. You are most welcome to our webinar.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
We are waiting for you for your speech.
I don't know. I don't know whether you. How, I don't know what I'm going to say.
No, no,
So
no,
uh,
no.
you are.
Sukant madam told you are a brilliant speaker.
oh, that's so kind. And namaste.
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 He is our faculty, our senior faculty, leader in English, Pitambar Naik
Okay.
sir. Yeah.
Okay. Namaste, Nayak sir. Greetings from Kashi. Greetings from Kashi.
Greetings from Kasi. Ma, Madam hails from the temple
Madam,
city,
namaskar.
Kasi.
Again.
Yeah, I am from Lord Shiva's abode. I'm very lucky to be in Kashi, Varanasi.
Hi.
Yeah.
Happy to meet you, madam.
Thank you so much. Let us pray that we meet in real. All this COVID is over so that we can actually meet.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
So this corona will be going and we will be meeting.
Sure, I would say Tathastu.
You are always in a very nice condition, ma'am, tandrust and cheerful, and
Yeah, this
you are.
lockdown has made me more healthy, because eating good food and staying home, not running about, otherwise it used to be a rush hour every time, so many work, but yeah, in some way it has helped also, you got time to relax.
So
Anxiety is there.
principals are joined. Our principals are Brajakeshwar Wal sir.
Madam, namaskar.
Namaskar, namaskar.
Madam is in a very good mood always. No seen her in any bad mood. She is always cheerful, and certainly she is inspiration for
That's
us.
that That's because I have such a wonderful, companions like you. You all always
Yeah,
keep me,
yeah,
encouraging me.
yeah.
So, and I think we all belong to the field of literature.
Yes,
So
sir.
we are always, reading something, so creative, and it is always, giving something, teaching us something, adding to our life, and maybe that is the reason that we, the students of literature, always have a very happy-go-lucky kind of,
Yeah,
attitude
yeah,
towards life.
yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
So we all are,
So we are always in company of young people. We are always in company of young people. That's
yes,
why we also
yeah,
remain
yeah.
young in spirit.
Yes, you are right. You are right, Sukant. Because our students are, right from 18 to 22. That is the age group that we are always interacting with. And that keeps us
Interacting.
always, recharged and energized,
Another
That is,
angels.
I call my students that you all are my power angels, my power brigade. That is, I always
Yeah,
tell my students.
they are our power bank, our power brigade. They are everything for us.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
So participants are joining, and we will start just at 11:30. Uh,
Okay, sure.
Waiting for our participants. Yeah.
No, no. It's okay. It's okay. We should follow the program.
Yeah, because we have to wait for participants and.
Ma'am, you speak
Yeah.
something about your place. About your place.
Yeah,
You want to hear
you
about
speak.
Kashi?
Your
About
Yeah.
the religious place.
Yeah, Kashi is situated at the bank of River Ganga. Yes, and
yeah,
it is a very religious city. It has more than 5,000 temples. Of course, the one of the Jyotirling, that is Kashi Vishwanath. Uh, we have, you all know, there are 12 Jyotirlings all over India, and Kashi happens to have the one very important, that is Kashi Vishwanath, and throughout the year. See, despite the COVID lockdown and all Corona and everything, I want to tell you something very positive about Kashi, that people here, because another name of Kashi is Banaras. hmm? And Banaras means something that is made of ras. Banaras, raso se bana hua. So it has, that kind of a juicy flavor. And that's why people are always, very happy. And Lord Shiva is fond of, bhang and all. So people are always in full masti. Despite the, we had such a bad period, I could say, throughout the world, because of this COVID-19. Everybody was, really in a very traumatic kind of state. But some, something very strange about Kashi is that we were always, we have that faith that because it is at the Trishul of Lord Shiva, so nothing will happen to Kashi. Kashi is safe. And yeah, it is. There are 5,000 temples, as I told you. But the major ones, like you have Lord Vishwanath is there, and then you have a very big temple of Lord Hanuman. Then we have Lord Ram temple is there. The major one I'm telling, if you plan to come and visit Varanasi, you will find that there is so many temples. And then we have Sarnath very close to us, Lord Buddha's place where he gave his first teaching after he got the enlightenment, his 5 disciples, and he taught them, all about the philosophy of Buddhism. So Kashi has many things, then the Kashi has like handicraft is there, woodwork is there, silk is there, and then you have variety of sweets. You will just love once you come. They are so, especially every second, maybe half a kilometer you'll find. Any one of you have visited Varanasi?
yes, ma'am. I have visited Varanasi in 2010, perhaps. Yeah, ma'am. I have visited Varanasi.
Okay.
Yeah, I have seen Sarnath too. Sarnath, I have visited Sarnath. Kashi Vishwanath, Sarnath.
And you know the lake.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Mm-hmm.
Ma'am, please tell us a Sairi. Sairi, you are a very good Sairi. Sairis and Hindi poems. So let's hear something in Hindi from you now before our meeting starts.
Okay, you want to hear something in Hindi?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Sairi, ma'am.
Yes.
Sairi.
Okay, just give me few seconds. I'll have to.
Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Okay. I think this was there on the Facebook. I don't know whether you all heard it or not. How many of you are there? It is, the title is Aastha Ke Pal. Aastha Ke Pal.
Yes,
जिंदगी की सुबह तो रोज ही होती है. जिंदगी की सुबह रोज ही होती है. इंतजार तो एक हसीन शाम का है. इंतजार तो एक हसीन शाम का है. क्षितिज पर उभरता सुर्ख गोला. क्षितिज पर उभरता सुर्ख गोला. मेरे माथे पर सजी सिंदूरी आभा. बहुत करीब है. बड़ा ही अजीज है ये अनजाना सा अनकहा सा ये रिश्ता. सुर्ख गोला और मेरे माथे पे सजी सिंदूरी आभा के बहुत करीब है, बड़ा ही अजीज है ये अनजाना सा अनकहा ये रिश्ता। दोनों सहर होते ही अपनी अपनी जगह पर विराजमान हो जाते हैं। दोनों सहर दैट इज सुबह, दोनों सहर होते ही अपनी अपनी जगह पर विराजमान हो जाते हैं, कभी न टूटने वाले वादे की तरह। एक तारे
Sound
I think
sound.
there is
Very nice,
too
ma'am.
many.
Very nice. Very nice, ma'am. Very nice.
Sir,
Thank you, thank you. Are you ready to start your program?
Yes.
yeah, ma'am. We will be starting our program now. It is already 11:30. So I request all of you to mute yourself, except I am going to give my welcome speech now, and there is background sound from somewhere. So before I start, I welcome you all. I wish you all happy Gandhi Jayanti, because today is an auspicious day. Now, respectful principal sir, our beloved HOD Satirani madam, and my senior colleague Pitamba sir, our honorable resource person Professor Bina madam, all our esteemed participants and dignitaries, and my dear students. My hearty welcome to you all to our national webinar on literary reflections, thought for humanity. As we know, today is an auspicious day. I wish you all a happy Gandhi Jayanti and Shastri Jayanti. My most respectful and profound tribute to these two great leaders and makers of our nation. I remember Mahatma Gandhi, the political and spiritual leader of India, whose life is an inspiration to the people of the whole world, and who has become an international icon for peace, non-violence, unity, and harmony. To commemorate the 150 years of his birth anniversary, an international anthology of poems was published last year, a poetic tribute to the Mahatma, words from the world over, where my poem is featured too. I am going to read that poem just now. It is a very small poem, and I will read it for our participants so that they can. It is a way to pay my tribute to Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhiji, he was born simple and ordinary, shy and unassuming, with all human frailties, like everyone else. Yet, somewhere inside him, there was an awareness of his every single act, mistakes and folly which he had strived to overcome and grow inside, to do what his own conviction commanded. A rebellious self, a worshipper of truth, a preacher of non-violence, he was the emperor without a crown, a man who lives in many. His identity surpassed the boundaries, made him limitless, a leader, a fighter, a martyr, and a Gandhiji, whose name inspires. Now here my poem ends. Now, before I skip to our next program, I must say a few words about our noble guest, honorable guest, Bina Madam. She is an illustrious speaker. She has a noble and genial heart. She is quite amiable. She is a very cheerful personality, as we have already within these minutes. More than once, I was invited by her in Hyderabad during an international conference, and I have heard her more than speaking with a magnetic force which keeps his audience hooked to the seat. And we will hear to her speaking today. Now, my warm welcome to all the participants, all the dignitaries, and I now ask Draksha Mohanty, our third year honor student, to start the welcome song. Draksha.
Good morning, everyone. So, as we all know, this is a very special day for all of us, for our country. because this is the birthday of the father of our nation, Sri Mahatma Gandhi ji, and the former Prime Minister of India, Sri Lal Bahadur Shastri ji. So I felt really fortunate to sing this song in front of you all. Thank you so much, ma'am. वैष्णव जन तो तेरे जी पीड़ पड़ाए रे वैष्णव जन तो तेरे जी पीड़ पड़ाए रे कर दुखे उपकार करे तोए मन अभिमान नाणे रे वैष्णव जन तो तेने कही जी पीड़ पराई जाने रे शकल लोक माना सहुने वंदे निंदा न करे रे बाच काच मन निशल राखी धन धन जननी तेरी रे वैष्णव जन तो तेने कही जी पीड़ पराई जाने रे समदृष्टि ने तृष्णा त्यागे पर स्त्री जय रे मात रे जीशथ की असत न बोले पर धन न बचाने हाथ रे वैष्णव जन तो तेने कही जी पीड़ पराई जाने रे पर दुखे उपकार करे तोए मन अभिमान राणी रे वैष्णव जन तो तेने कही जी पीड़ पराई जाने रे थैंक यू
Thank you, Draksha. Now I welcome our principal sir to start his welcome speech, to deliver his welcome speech. Now over to principal sir.
Mute এটা কেমনে হবে
Sir, unmute. Sir, it is already unmuted. Sir, unmuted. You are unmuted. Yes.
So, you are listening? You are
Yes,
listening
sir.
me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, audible?
Yes,
Yes.
sir, audible.
So, सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. Respected participants, our revered guest of this webinar, Madam Professor Veena Singh, my colleagues and dear students. At the outset, I would like to pay my respectful tribute to the great personalities of our nation, our beloved father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, and Sri Lal Bahadur Shastri, who were born this day. Really, I am glad to have this webinar on this auspicious day. Let's be inspired and follow the principles and philosophy of these two great men by a simple living and high thinking. This is the third webinar organized by the Department of English of our college. I feel proud of their initiative. Our resource person, Madam, will speak on a beautiful topic, literary reflections, thought for humanity. This is a very suitable theme for today. How literature can imbibe humanity, fellow feelings, compassion in the heart of people will surely be discussed by her. Madam, I thank you from the core of my heart for being our honorable guest today. We are eagerly waiting for your presentation. We are still going through the critical time of the COVID pandemic. I wish all of you to remain safe and sound. Thank you. Over to Sukanti, madam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Madam.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Now I request our HOD, Satirani Mahanti madam, to give his guest introduction. She will introduce our illustrious guest today, Bina madam. Madam, now you have to.
Hello everyone. Hello everyone. Very good morning to all.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello everyone. Very good morning to all. This is Satirani Mahanti, reader in English and head of the department. Extend my warm welcome to all the participants and dignitaries to our national webinar. Today is 2nd October, the birth anniversary of Bapu, the father of nation. He said, "You can chain me, you can torture me, you can even destroy my body, but you will never imprison my mind." Happy Gandhi Jayanti to all. Now, let us welcome our resource person, a superwoman, a famous visionary, Professor Dr. Bina Singh. Literature being her passion and poetry her first love. She is now working as the head of the Department of English, Basant Kanya Mahavidyalaya, BHU, Varanasi. She was born and brought up in Varanasi and obtained her MA, PhD from Banaras Hindu University. She has been an educator of English literature and language for the last 38 years. Madam takes keen interest in American literature, Indian literature, feminist literature, as well as other world literatures. She is the member of various academic, administrative, and socio-cultural bodies. Presently, she is the president of Kashi Tattva Sabha, Theosophical Society of India, Varanasi. Professor Singh has chaired, organized, and participated in various national, international conferences, workshops, and literary festivals. She has authored 6 books, 3 on literature and 3 on collection of poems. Her research papers, articles, and poems have been published in various national and international literary journals, newspapers, and books. We are super excited to listen to you, ma'am. You are most welcome to our national webinar. Thank you. Over to you, Professor Dr. Bina Singh, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am, Dr. Bina Singh.
Thank you so much. I really feel so humbled. I now give my formal and a very warm greetings with love and blessing to the entire fraternity, English fraternity of Charampa College. I am really privileged and honored to be invited to share my thoughts with all of you before I start, I really want to share something very personal with you, that one of the students, I forget her name, who sang the favorite bhajan of our Bapu, where it is so beautifully the emotions and the thought and the philosophy towards love, acceptance, forgiveness, pain, selfless. You know, all these things are so well versed in that bhajan. दूसरे की पीड़ा, कोई अभिमान नहीं, बिना अभिमान उस पीड़ा को संभालना, उसको दूर करना, वैष्णव जन, मतलब that is so I would say it's such a beautiful manifestation of the redemption towards upliftment that we all look for, we all long for, has been reflected in that bhajan. And congratulations to that singer, that student. She gave such a melodious chanting. I was really carried away. I was really carried away because that is very, very close to my heart also. And the friends, the motto of my college is education as service. The college I belong to was founded by Dr. Annie Besant. And Annie Besant talked about what? Her belief was that universal brotherhood. And Annie Besant was at that time in India, when India was struggling for freedom, you know. She came to India in 1893 and she embraced, adopted, converted herself into a very devoted Hindu, and she worked for women empowerment, for women education, for freedom. And I, friends, happen to be part of that institution. For the last 38 years, I am working there, I'm teaching there, trying to convey the ideology of universal brotherhood. And my friends, I am really happy and feel delighted that what an auspicious day you have chosen for the webinar. The moment Sukanti said that it is 2nd of October and ma'am, we want to hear you, the very first thing that came to me, it is Gandhiji. It is our Bapu, non-violence, who served humanity, who lived for humanity, and our second Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri, Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. How could we forget them? What a wonderful and an appropriate, very becoming, meaningful choice of the day. And I feel honored, privileged, delighted that I have to speak something. And that is why the very first topic that came to my mind, that it has to be voice of humanity. We have to explore. We all are students of literature, and we all are pursuing in our respective way, with our respective, thoughts and emotions and intelligence, how to unravel the literary text penned by the masters, masters like Shakespeare, Bacon, Milton, Charles Dickens, Hardy, there's a whole list, and then you come to the modern age. This is literature, actually, friends. The very idea, the very inspiration, why I chose literary reflections as voice of humanity, because being a student of literature, I think all of you will agree with me that literature and life are inseparable. They are the two sides of the same coin. And we have been reading that like the 18th century writers, thinkers, visionaries, they said that literature imitates life, art imitates life. When you move on to the 19th century, the romantics say no, it is spontaneous overflow of emotion, it is not imitation. And as we go into, as we delve deep into our literary text, right from the Middle Ages to the modern age, postmodern age, uh, their mode of expression may be different, their mode of form, the genre they choose, that may be different. It may be a poem, it may be a novel, it may be a drama or essay or short story, whatever the form, friends. And the expression may be satiric, it may be comic, it may be tragic, whatever. But ultimately, when you go deep into the creative reflection of a literary artist, what do we arrive at? What is the conclusion that we find? That they all are talking about life. Because everything that they receive from life, it is all the perception that they make, the observation that they make, that has been, framed with their creative genius, with their imagination, with their verbal felicity. That is how their text appear differently. But by the end of the day, what do we find? That they all are talking about life. So literature and life is inseparable. Literature is all about life. Another point that comes to me, when I look at literature, as I have, for the last 38 years, I have found that literature happens to be the soul of all knowledge. This is how I look at it, I look at it, that literature is the soul of all knowledge. And these books that we read, friends, they are not mere words, they are not lifeless, they are not bloodless, they are very much with flesh, blood, because they happen to be what? They happen to give us the catharsis that we look for. Literature is catharsis. It has that cathartic power that, gives us the purgation, the purification, the upliftment, the enlightenment that we all look for. Because what is the poet doing? What is the dramatist doing or the novelist doing? They are actually through the temporal truth. Temporal truth is the physical reality that exists all around, everywhere. That is what physical life is. So that temporal truth, but it is not just temporal, girls. Why? Because that temporal truth is cloaked in the spiritual truth. The spirituality is very much inherent, only it is not obvious. Why? Why we are unable to see that? Because maybe our inner wisdom, our inner eye, our inner vision is in a state of slumber. Perhaps, we are so engrossed, so indulged in our respective mechanized life, our respective material aspirations, that we fail to come out from that. We fail to unmask that, and that is why we don't reach and get connected to the higher truth that is there, Now, I would be giving examples, friend, illustrating, because I know my audience are also students. So I have to be very, very illustrative in order to justify why I have called literary reflections. What is literary reflection? It is the creative composition, right? The creative composition that a literary artist endeavors to frame, to compose, to give it a structure. And that structure is not merely words. They are not merely words. They are as all of you might have, or I hope you are familiar with Samuel Taylor Coleridge. What does Coleridge says? He says that whatever is external, the creative artist assimilates it internalizes it. And once it has been internalized, it is externalized. And that externalization is in the form of that particular composition. Be it Wordsworth. What did Wordsworth do, friends, when he looked towards the dancing daffodils at the lake, you know? It was his spontaneous overflow of emotion, right? That outburst, that enchantment, that intoxication, that spell that was there the moment he was connected with the dancing daffodils. And it is that which he retains in his mind and recollects in tranquility. So a meditative act begins, recollection, in order to recreate and recreate with the original. Whatever he had experienced initially, same power, same spell, same intoxication should come. So it is all in every act of creative process, the writer is undergoing a deep act of speculation, introspection, reflection, meditation, till he arrives at the state of enlightenment, you know. It is only once that enlightenment takes place that his soul, heart, mind is ready to create. So friends, it is always that reflection is the creative reflection, literary reflection is always happening with life. You can start from the very beginning. We can just go back, you know, I think my students must be knowing about the 16th century. I will start from there only. The age, the Renaissance, the Elizabethan age, Shakespeare, Bacon. What does Bacon write? What does Bacon write in his essays? Doesn't he write about, especially in the off studies, he writes about what? He writes about the blending, the fusion of the practical wisdom and the theoretical wisdom. Meaning, then only knowledge becomes perfect, you know. Otherwise, everything is imperfect. Meaning, one has to, whatever you read in the books, you have to find it in the life at large. If that practical wisdom is not obtained, the classroom teaching, the theoretical wisdom happens to be imperfect, incomplete. The totality of the knowledge comes only through the blending of the two. So that is there in Bacon. Then you'll move a little, just some examples I'm giving you because I want you all to understand what is this. See, this voice of humanity is not just about, you know, talking about the oppressed and talking about the suffering. That is there, you know, that is there. Literature always is there. And you have, I will be giving you a number of examples where you find that the literary text is intended to talk about the positive values of life, those values that soothe, heal, and sustain humanity, you know. That is there. I'll be coming to that point later. But before that, I was just going to your 18th century periodical essays, girls. I just wanted to mention here Edison and Steele, who started the periodical essays, friends. What was the purpose? What was the objective? In the words of Edison himself, when he says that they were social documentation, no doubt, you know, because it was all about the social reality. It was all about the follies and foibles that was existing in life. It was against the affectation. It was against the artificialities of life that needed to be corrected, you know. And that is why Edison very rightly claims that the purpose or the objective of the periodical essays was to temper wit with morality and morality with wit. So see, there comes morality and wit, meaning morality is what? Morality is the ethical values, all those values that support existence, you know, support existence towards a positive existence, you know. And that is why if the fallibilities were existing, if there was hypocrisy, if there was affectation and artificiality, that needs to be corrected. And as you go ahead, one of the masterpieces of 18th century by Alexander Pope, Rape of the Lock. What is Rape of the Lock? That is again another satire, satire that intends to expose the existing fallibilities and pretensions and aristocracy, artificialities of life. And that has been ridiculed and mocked by the satirist Alexander Pope. These examples, they may be talking about a certain aspect of life, but in the root of it, what do you see, friends? In the root of it, we see that every writer, be it Bacon, be it Edison, or be it Alexander Pope, I have just named few, what were they, and many more like them, they were all aiming at what? Their creative reflection, their literary reflection, be it the periodical essay, or be it Bacon's essay, or be it Alexander Pope's Rape of the Lock, everywhere deep down, the intention, the objective of the creative musing, speculation, brooding was towards what? It was towards correction. It was towards correction for the betterment of life, that life which is not having any shadow of any kind of evil, evil that could affect the emotions, or it could affect the social culture or religion, whatever. Everywhere the point of concentration and meditation and reflection made by the artist, by the creative writer, by the literary visionary was towards humanity. And humanity is not about, just suffering. Humanity is also, about how to discriminate between right and wrong, evil and good. That is also there, and negativity can come in any form, and it would be always disrupting the harmony of existence, When we move a little forward, girls, like just coming to the 19th century, 19th century is actually one of the turning points in literature. The most transitional phase, I would say. There were, at three levels we find the transition. Political level, about the French Revolution and how democracy is brought in, aristocracy is uprooted. That was the cause of French Revolution, all the atrocity of the aristocracy, the arrogance and the, despotism, that was brought to an end, and rule of the people, by the people, for the people, more liberty, equality and fraternity, And that is why, because of this French Revolution, that we get back the revival of Romanticism, And then the second very important changing phase, I would say, transitional phase that affected life, that affected life and gave birth to literature in such a versatile form, Variety of, literary writings came into existence in the form of novel, in the form of poem and essays. It was the Industrial Revolution, 1850, friends. You all know, on one hand, Industrial Revolution gave birth to more comfort and conveniences in life, because telegraph came, transportation changed. So everything was in the more factories coming up, more jobs, more money, life becoming more convenient and easy. That was the Industrial Revolution. But what happened? What was the negative side of this Industrial Revolution? Once money started rolling on, the power of money, it gave birth to a new culture, the materialistic culture. And it is from here, the materialism that we see today in such a devastating form in the 21st century, which is the root cause of the disruption and disharmony and the devastation that we all happen to face today. And it's really challenging and disturbing, creating so much turbulence in life, that evil, I would say, culture, the materialistic culture was born after the Industrial Revolution, That is one very I would say, ugly face, dissatisfying face of 19th century, you know. And the last point was the, you all know, the Darwinian theory of evolution. His book, The Origin of Species, how, you know, it claimed that our ancestors are apes and monkeys, you know. What happened? This kind of a theory, this kind of a scientific theory coming in, met with a direct conflict and clash with the age-old faith in church, in Christianity, in Bible. Church was questioned, Bible was questioned. And that is why we say, I will just mention one writer, of a very prominent writer, the last Victorian and the first modern. I'm talking about Matthew Arnold, girls. A very, very powerful voice, you know. Matthew Arnold, the last Victorian poet, a critic, voices the dilemma, the doubt, the interrogation, the anxiety that happens to be the literary features of modern age. So the last decade of the 19th century, you know, we find Arnold coming up. And that is why there are some very famous work of Arnold, like, you know, Culture and Anarchy, that he writes, you know. He gives his theory of poetry, you know. Poetry is criticism of life. Why did he write all this? What made him look as a critic, propounding, formulating these theories, girls? Because Arnold felt and realized that the materialistic culture, the evil of materialistic culture, extreme mechanization due to industries, and the Darwinian theory creating a disbelief, doubt, you know, a kind of agnosticism, disbelief in God and religion, you know. And at this point of chaos, I would say, a turbulence that Arnold was going through, he needed something. He needed something to bring back the lost faith. How to retain that? How to make people believe that life is not falling apart? Faith should not crumble that way. And it is at this point, girls, if you all remember, my students, if you have read that period, Arnold claims that it is only literature that could bring the redemption. Where religion fails, literature comes to rescue, you know. Poetry aims higher. It has to be cathartic. And that brings poetry as criticism of life. So now it is literature that one has to look toward, because literature is all about life. And I would just share with you how his state of melancholy and you know, disenchantment that he was compelled to live with, you know. But because Arnold was a believer, he was not an atheist, girl. So he had to bring back, he has to, through literary writings, such voices were needed in literature, you know, that would stop the degeneration, that would bring the power of regeneration, you know, bringing back the lost faith. And I think all of you are familiar with one of his very important and iconic poem, Dover Beach. I'll just share with you few lines, girls, because it speaks so beautifully. It speaks beautifully about how to sustain the existence, you know, how to find the healing touch, you know. He says, it is just the last part of the poem, just few lines I'll share with you, my friends. Ah, love, let us be true to one another. Ah, love, let us be true to one another. Nor certitude, nor peace, nor help for pain. And we here, as on a darkling plain, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night. So that ignorance has to be removed. See, the lines may sound, they may sound that it is very kind of melancholic and, there is some sort of a disenchantment. But no, the moment he talks about love, he talks about coming together. He's talking about the light of wisdom. He doesn't want people. See, what are we doing? We are just clashing like our ignorant armies in the dark plain. This darkness has to be overcome. See, all the suffer, all the pain and oppression and devastation that we happen to face, see, and live, it is because of ignorance. It is ignorance that has caused, so much different kinds of fragmentations. We are breaking, we are just crumbling, and that darkness has to be removed. Then only humanity is what? Humanity is the bliss of existence, and that bliss of existence will only be retained. It would be recovered, revived with the voice of love, with the voice of faith, with the voice of light. The darkness has to be overcome. So Arnold happens to be a very, very powerful voice, because for the first time, this is how I look at it, friends. It's not necessary that everybody will agree, but when I read, I find that Arnold, the moment he says that let the poetry be, he just repeats John Keats, let poetry be a joy of thing forever. Let it come out, because the poet is creating something from the very, utmost depth of his soul, So it's coming out from there. So it has to have the power of enlightenment. It has to have, you can just go back and look at William Wordsworth, Even Wordsworth, when he says that what is a poet or who is a poet? Poet is a man speaking to men. And what is he trying to do? He's not just trying to give joy. Delight is definitely there. But that delight has to be followed by a moral gain, meaning there has to be an upliftment. And he says that the poet is the seeker of the truth. He is just an healer. He heals the afflicted humanity. That should be the power of his lyrical cravings. His lyrical composition should have the power to heal and soothe, to uplift, So, these reflections, these assertions and claims made by Arnold or made by Wordsworth, it speaks about what? They both, may be saying it differently, but they are all speaking about that art, creative art, literature is for humanity. It is not mere pleasure. It is not mere joy. Joy, pleasure followed by an upliftment. There has to be a transcendence, friends, from physical to spiritual. Then only the suffering soul will be healed, And as we move on to another example, before I go to T.S. Eliot, I would just like to, I think all of you will agree with me, the Gitanjali, I'm talking about Tagore, the Gurudev, and we all, unanimously, the whole world agrees, our Nobel laureate poet, one of the matchless, peerless, incomparable visionary, His Gitanjali is a Bible to me. And honestly, friends, whenever I read, whenever I am perturbed, I just have to pick up Gitanjali and just go through some of the verses, Just read some of the lines and you find so much consolation, you find contentment, you find peace. That is the magic of Gurudev, he writes. And whether you read his short stories, you read his novels, be it Gora, Post Office, whole of the Gitanjali, there is an illustrious list, you know. I can't mention all that. So I only take up Gitanjali. And because it's very close to my heart, friends, and you just go through one of, and you will find that this romantic mystic, a transcendentalist who was always speaking not only against the uh, conventions, orthodox conventions that suffocated existence. He always opposed that. But at the same time, he was a romantic mystic, you know, just like Wordsworth and Emerson, looking towards nature, nature, the very embodiment of that supreme reality. And one of his iconic poems, I think all of you are familiar with that, which is, you can't find a better reflection, girls, that has so much in it. It has everything in it, you know, that is, it is speaking not only for the motherland, but it is humanity at large, girls. This is what he visioned. This is what he dreamt. And we need it. We need it again. The relevance, the significance of the literary writings of Tagore is imperishable. It is ceaselessly influencing, inspiring, enlightening humanity even today. And just a few lines from his song number 35 from Gitanjali, where the mind is without fear. All of you know this. It is so close and it is so relevant. We need it today. We need these lines to live and to realize it and to be practically implemented in life, friends, because the kind of life that we are facing today, it is so disjointed. Everything is just crumbling, falling apart, you know. How are we going to join? How are we going to protect humanity? These are the words that will give us the power. When he says that where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, what is he's talking about? Come out from your prejudices, come out from your partialities, biases. All the man-made temporal barriers need to be broken. You have to come out from that. The light has to be within and beyond. That knowledge he's talking about. And unfortunately, ironically, it's missing badly, you know. And it's such a lovely prayer, such a soothing prayer that Gurudev makes, you know. I won't read everything, friends. I will just say, when he talks about the words should come from the depth of truth, he's talking about truth. He's talking about reason. He's talking about freedom. And what is happening today? There is a pseudo-intellectualism, pseudo-religious faith, pseudo everywhere, so much pretension in life. We have lost the very voice of humanity, that voice which was so beautifully, so devotedly raised by these masters like Gurudev, Rabindranath Tagore. How strongly he attacked the ritualistic hollowness, the ostentatious performance, you know, unnecessary ornamentation. That was never favored by him. He always looked towards the simplicity of life. And the moment we have those simplicities, the moment we come out from the artificial masks, the painted faces, I think we would be able to see the real faces, you know, the real faces that we need. And this is what literature always speaks about. There is, Tagore is there, and then there I am just reminded of another American writer, R.W. Emerson. He's also a romantic mystic, you know. And he also talks his very poem, the title, Each and All. Just one example I'm giving you. each and all. In the title itself, you can make out the suggested symbolic meaning here. He's talking about what? He's talking about the universal brotherhood. He's talking about with that irrespective of color, class, creed, come together, cohesive coexistence of each and all, the harmony of life, the balance of life is in retaining, respecting the individuality without trespassing and encroaching and destroying that individuality. Bring it and assimilate it in the collective consciousness, togetherness, the universality of existence, universal brotherhood. This is what Emerson talks in Each and All, the American poet. Same time, they were all, writing at the time when Tagore wrote, they are all 19th century writers, And then when you move on to the 20th century, all of you are familiar with the modern epic, The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot. Although everybody thinks that it is a very disillusioned and pessimistic, glooming kind of text, because he's only talking about desiccation, death, futility, and decadence. That is there. But don't you think, why is he doing that? If he's talking about modern civilization as a heap of broken images, he's also talking about burning I came to Carthage. He's talking about the purification. He's talking about confession and acceptance. He's talking about, if you all remember the last section, what Thunder said, where he takes us to our scripture, the Puran, the Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka, 5th section, and he gives the conversation between the Dev, the man, and the Asur, and these three are very much within us, And then he talks about, how that has to be conquered, When Prajapati gives one syllable, da, to all the 3 disciples, and asks them to give their interpretation, how they have perceived that syllable da. And, each one, man gives it that it is gift for him. The demons talk it that it is about sympathy. He understood that we should be more sympathetic, sympathize. And the last one is with the Devtas. And Devtas, that is the gods, they say that for them it is that they should be more controlled. Now these, I'm not going to take much more time. I'm not here to teach you Wasteland. But the point here is that I want to make that iconic text, the Wasteland, which is generally, people think that it is a very, very gloomy observation of life, It is about desiccation and death, It is about that civilization is on the verge of extinction, We are sitting on an atom bomb, and any moment it would just explode and everything would be finished. But the way he ends, see the entire text, the introspection made, the speculations and broodings and contemplation made by T.S. Eliot eventually talks towards what? He's talking about stopping that. Let not that devastation take place. Let not damnation destroy everything, Because in the closing lines, once again coming from Puran, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. This is how he closes the text. He's he's talking about peace. That peace has to be restored. The peace that is gone. And it is only the restoration of the peace, that revival, which will save humanity. Humanity that is about to disappear, destroy. Then I just wanted to give 2 examples more, and then I think I'll close. All of you must have heard our Indian Hindi writer, Prem Chand. Prem Chand, just 2 texts, 2 short stories. One is Thakur Ka Kuan and the other is Budhi Kaki. I'll just briefly, in 2 lines, I'll give you the gist. Thakur Ka Kuan talks about the untouchability. That is, if there's a special well in the village which is meant for the higher caste, and the lower caste could not take water from there, despite thirst and death. Similarly, Budhi Kaki is a story of an old woman who is kept hungry and, starved and suffering. But the moment she dies, the grandson or the nephew, he, in order to, we have a last rites like the Brahma Bhoj after the death. That Brahma Bhoj is very lavish. Everybody is called, whole of the village is eating good food, sweets and everything. The irony is that for the woman for whom it's being done, she stayed hungry all her life. She could never get a piece of bread to be eaten properly. So Prem Chand, just like your Charles Dickens, is a social reformer. He wrote with a voice of protest. He wrote against the existing discriminations and oppression caused by the feudal powers, in the Indian villages, and how hunger, oppression, starvation, disease, death, it was there due to the material power of the so-called high class, So this kind of social injustice and so much poverty and death and suffering was always very powerfully ridiculed and, portrayed by Prem Chand, This is Prem Chand's reflection, right? His creative reflection, his literary reflection, always portraying, presenting life in his own way. But the ultimate goal, ultimate purpose was to speak for humanity, to speak for justice, to speak against injustice and oppression. So that is why, friends, literature is that great power. It is the soul of all knowledge. It has to be have that purifying power. Catharsis. I said literature has to be cathartic. So you can pick up any text, girls, and you can read in whatever the form may be, whatever the style may be. But eventually, the artist is speaking against evils and speaking for virtue. So literary writing is always a battle, a conflict between good and evil. And it is always evil that is supposed to be transitory and perishable. It has to be destroyed. What is sustained, what is kept, what has to be held, that is all those positive values that uphold, support existence. This is how I understand literature. This is how I read literature. Thank you so much. I hope I have not crossed my time.
No, ma'am.
So I'm done.
Yes, ma'am. This is such a brilliant talk. And I imagine you have you imagined yourself in a classroom teaching for 38 or more years, addressing the girls. You so many times you addressed us as girls, and I imagine that you are so involved and so much. That means engrossed in your teaching. That means teaching methodology. That is, you forgot that we are the audience. You thought that we are all your students. All your students are sitting before you, and now I remember you recited the poem from Rabindranath Tagore. Chitta jatha bhay sunya uncha jatha sir, gyan jatha mukta jatha grihir prachir. Upon prangal tale divas sarbari vasudhare rakhe nahi satakhetra kari. So this is one of his poems from that where the mind is without fear. This is just the Bengali version of it. And amar mathanata kare dao ke tomar charan dhular tale sakal ahankar he amar duba chokher jale. So amar najen kari prachar amar apan kaje tomar ichha karo he purna amar jiban maje So this should be our motto today in this auspicious day of Gandhi Jayanti. We should pray to the God the Almighty that He should give us that knowledge, pure wisdom, that we should understand, we should discriminate between the good and the evil. And so much evil doings are, so many evil doings are being seen in the world nowadays. So we must pray for humanity. We must restore the peace and humanity in this world. Now I invite our participants to ask questions. And this is such a brilliant session. Madam spoke so brilliantly, so involvedly, so much engrossed she was in her talk, that we must have understood that she has given us enormous examples from the literary texts, and this is really the reflection of her life, a thought for humanity. And we must now ask her questions. We must participate in this interactive session. I invite our lecturer friends, most of are there, and I invite them to ask questions. Now over to our friends who wants to ask question. Yes, sir. You are.
Madam.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So I am very much impressed of the talk of Madam Veena Singh. But my question is that humanity gradually decreasing order. So our society facing a great trouble in problem, rape and murder, quarrel among the people. But all poets, writers, and the religious men, they are thinking about the betterment of our society. But why it is decreasing? Why the problems are increasing order in our society? How we will save from it? So, Madam, please explain.
Yeah, friend, I understand your anxiety, and this anxiety is very, very genuine. To be honest with you, whenever I pick up the newspaper or I turn on my television, it really gives such a disheartening, heartbreaking kind of, like recently in UP Hathras, how brutally that girl. I think, what is the problem? I personally feel, that which already, T.S. Eliot has talked about it in his Wasteland. He says that the problem of the degeneration and so much crime, corruption, acts are taking place. Why? Because it is not just that it has nothing to do with spirituality. Forget about spirituality. I'm not talking about anything higher. I'm talking about our insensitiveness. Emotionally, we have become sterile, a complete, like we all are living with a frozen identity. We have freezed. Emotions are not there. We have just, and all these rapes that are happening, I think it is just some kind of, I won't call it insanity also. It is a very barbaric kind of act, and the reason is that there is neither any sensitiveness. Even if there is little bit of emotion, if there little of emotion is left, I don't think anybody will do that. Wisdom and light and knowledge comes later. Initially, at the first point, I feel that we are emotionally dead, and it is all that is. Even these rapists, what are they doing? There is no emotion actually. It is not even animal lust. It is beyond anything, because they are dead. They are dead. This is how I look at it, and I think that we should, we as writers and creative thinkers, it is our duty to write more, to speak more. We have to, do something. For some awakening has to be done. People have to be, awakened. They have to make emotionally alive. If they're emotionally alive, if they feel something, then only such kind of brutality could be stopped. Otherwise, it is, I know it's very, very disgusting. It is very, very disheartening. Personally, I am a very, very optimist. I believe, I believe in the good things. I think that finally good will conquer. But the kind of situation that we are facing today, it is certainly very, very threatening, very alarming, very painful. I don't have any words. I don't know how to do it, what to do it, because whatever, even if we are writing, do you think how many of us are reading? Even if suppose you are writing something, how many people read that? People don't read that. People actually just they love to watch whatever is trash, whatever is, violent and ugly. And just look at our cinema. What's happening in Indian cinema? Cinema happens to be one of the most powerful entertaining source, But you just see for the last 10 years, what is happening? I will just mention one program, at our television. Why do we have programs like Big Boss? Why? This is my question. We don't make protest. We sit and we just watch all the melodrama and cheapness and foolishness. And that is why the young mind is so, immature, raw. And that is why they, it gets affected by these kinds of vulgar, cheap, melodramatic elements, and that has to be stopped. I'm so happy that the theaters are not open. So all those dirty films are not coming anymore. I'm really disgusted, I know. I don't know what to do. Sometimes I feel like
Madam, it is seen that literate persons are more committing crime than illiterate persons.
Exactly, I agree. Because they are not literate. They appear to be literate. मैंने कहा ना, they are all pseudo-intellectuals. They pretend to be.
Yeah, madam. Yeah.
This pretense is very bad.
Okay. Any more question from anyone? Any more question?
Good afternoon.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes.
And the observation is not a question at all. My question is, I think the master please go back to
Sir, you are not audible, sir.
Hello.
Yeah. Ask.
Hello?
Now ask. Yes.
Am I audible?
You are a
Hello?
bit inaudible.
Hello.
Yes. Ask,
Hello?
sir. You may ask now. Ask, sir. You ask.
It's yeah, ma'am. It's just kind of observation, ma'am. If you go back, if you look back for past lives, the lives of our predecessors, it was also the sufferings and exploitation still existed there. And if we observe, if you see the life that Geoffrey Chaucer, he portrays the characters, that how the ecclesiastical characters, the clergy characters, they're also corrupted, and the evil also was there. And after when industrial revolution comes, we became modern. When modern age came, so it is also it's just like that. It brought some kind of convenience to our life. The life more, but still that the mileage still exists here. So is like Andres, ma'am, is the universal law, or is it the wish of the creator of the universe that the evil most exist in the society, to signing the character of a person, no matter that efforts by the poets, the philosophers, but still the evils social marriages they exist today also. After the industrialization comes, after we became all the countries that they become democratic, and we believe in by the democracy is by the people, for the people, and so on. And sorry, I forgot that. it's just like, so why this situation or is it this wish of the creator of the universe was that the evil must be existed? That I can recall here the essay of adversity. Adversity means adversity must be welcomed in our life. That shines our character at the hello. Yeah.
No, sir. Sir, please limit yourself
Hello.
to questions only. Sir, please limit yourself to questions only.
Okay,
Yeah.
ma'am. Okay. Sorry, ma'am. Sorry. My question is just to ma'am here that is it the universal law that evils must exist in every ages in every time, no matter how the ages is how it is so or college or the in so is it the for in the creator of the universe?
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Your question is hard, and your actually but madam has heard your question. Now she will answer. Okay.
Okay, my friend. You were talking about that the evil was even in past, and so what is the change? Bad people were there, crime was also there, sins were taking place. I agree to you. We just have to look at life. See, life, the very existence is a paradox, right? There is good, there is evil. Both are there simultaneously. They are existing. But what happened?
Yeah, ma'am.
What
Yeah.
happened in the past actually? One very important thing that I wanted to mention, and it is there in the modern epic, The Wasteland. If you have read that, what is happening there? All the time, Tiresias, who is the protagonist and voice of T.S. Eliot, keeps going back, And there is a way, the difference is that love, rape, seduction, it existed in the past also. Whereas the difference between the past and the present is that in the past, there was something that we call faith. What is that faith? There was a realization for the mistake. There was a confession made by St. Augustine, who also did sin. And it is this confession, acceptance, leading to forgiveness, the intervention of the gods, which unfortunately is totally missing today. Today we are living in a very reckless, callous, ruthless kind of world, where the evil is dominating the good. There is no universal law about it, See, you have to have, the balance of life is when the two opposites take a middle way. It is, the evil will be there. Certainly evil is there. Sin is there. We can't deny that. But it should not overshadow the virtue or the goodness within you. This overshadowing takes place once we are completely disconnected with faith. Faith in whatever supreme power one has, That is the problem. Today, we are, in the name of religion, in faith, what we are doing? Do you think all those ritualistic performances are expression of faith? No. That is just a very ostentatious performance, mechanized performance, lacking faith, Faith is something very personal and private, It doesn't need, I'm not against rituals. Rituals are beautiful. They are beautiful manifestation of our adoration to the Supreme. But when it goes beyond, then it destroys the real faith that should be there, And this is the difference between past and present. I'm not saying that past was all good and mighty. No, there was bad in past also. But that bad had some chances, some way to go through a transformation or a change. अभी क्या है? There is acceptance दूर की बात है, confession भी नहीं है, acceptance भी नहीं है. How are you going to? So from where will you get the forgiveness? Forgiveness only comes when there is acceptance and confession. I don't know whether I have made it myself clear or not. This is how I look
Yes,
at
ma'am.
it.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you.
anyone? Yeah. So, our student Ankit wants to ask a question. Yeah, you are invited to ask question, Ankit.
Good morning, madam. I am Ankit Raut from Charampa College, second year
Good morning.
student. I have a question. I think that people are less interested on humanity nowadays. If you see the television, that people are more interested in Bollywood than who eats drugs, who takes drugs, who is doing what in Bollywood. But for the real fact, they are not interested. Like you see the fact, like you see the fact of Hathras, when it happens, nobody knows. But now everyone knows because our whole media system is focusing on the Bollywood. So what is the third? People are not interested about humanity, and the real voice of humanity is suppressed in the fake voice of humanity, like the drama, Bollywood, fakeness. What is your idea? Please express.
I agree with you. I agree with you, my dear student. Actually, the problem today is that we are more attracted toward the flashy, glittering lights. The nudity on on the screen interests us more, but the nudity of the girl being raped is not in our interest. That is the tragic irony of the present life, girls. Boy, I agree with you, because the trash that is being offered to us, even the TRP and all these news, what are they doing? They are selling news. They are not interested in the truth. Everybody is having a competition whose TRP is more. And in that race, I call it, it's a mad race, a chaotic race. In that race, the real, vulnerable, naive simple truth of life is being lost, And that if that is lost, naturally humanity would be lost. We have become, just mechanized, robotic kind of existence we have. And we just like all those loud, violent colors, lights on the screen, be it Bollywood or be it television serials. Do we have any substance and content? No, we don't have. The kind of things they show, जो एक aesthetic art होना चाहिए, because that is not there. I am reminded of Coleridge when he says, there has to be a willing suspension of disbelief in order to create poetic truth and poetic beauty. कहाँ से होगा willing suspension of disbelief? Because we are caught in such artificial lights, all those paints, and the fault is ours. I'm saying it's my fault, because I like to watch that dirty game. I like to watch Big Boss, which has nothing in this. But still I watch. Why should I watch? It is we who have to protest, because we are the audience. We are the spectators. And if we don't raise our voice, we will be destined to watch all this trash and ugly things, be it news, be it cinema world, or be it your TV world. It's disgusting. So humanity is nowhere there. Nowhere there.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other question? Any other question from anyone? Anyone who asks, who wants to ask any question?
Yes, ma'am.
Or participants?
Yes, ma'am. It's Jhumkirat. Hello.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Good afternoon, ma'am. My question is that all of we are aware that in today's world there is pseudo intellectualism. There is evil is overcoming good. We all are aware of it. But what is the solution? Do we have any solution to it? Means through literature, can we find a solution? Means I have a younger brother. I can tell him that this is bad. Okay, as ma'am has given an example of Big Boss, I can suggest him that don't watch it. This is rubbish. But what thing I should suggest him to watch so that he can gain the right path, the right directions to.
Okay. It's a very. I know. I understand. I understand your concern. It is really troubling. I know. I have little ones in my family also. My granddaughter and my, and they all are attracted toward all these things that is happening, you know. But personally, what I do, actually, we have to give some time to them. And everybody is so busy in their life. There is so much hectic schedule, you know. I think, see, when I was growing up, I had my grandmother reading stories to me. And reading stories, sharing stories, that is all gone. How old is your brother? How old is he? Hello?
Hello?
Hello? How old is your brother?
Ma'am,
Hello? Can
he's
you hear
27 years
me?
old.
Yes, I told that he's
He's
27
young
years old.
man.
Yes, he's a young
Okay.
man.
Oh, he's a young man. He's not. Oh, then you
But
should
he's younger
suggest
than
some nice
you.
movies. Okay, younger than you. Advise it. Actually, the problem is that the present generation don't read, you know. They don't like reading books, you know. That is something very painful. I have experienced myself. I keep telling my students to read, but they don't want to read. They just want something visual, you know. So, suppose I'm sharing my personal experience. I was like I
Madam,
am
sound is
teaching
not
Hamlet
coming
to.
audible. It is not audible at all.
Hello, can you hear me now? Hello.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Am I
ma'am.
audible?
You are audible, ma'am.
Yes,
Okay, I am sharing my personal experience that how reading text is lost today. My own students, you know, like I'm teaching them Hamlet, you know, and we have BBC Play in a video form. They watch that very, you know, interestingly. But when I ask them to read the text, they don't want to read it. This is the problem of the present generation. I think we have to. I don't know how we are going to inculcate, how we are going to bring back that reading habit, you know, and even like, you know, watching good movies. I don't know why they like to watch all those action movies with so much violence in that. I just fail to understand. Then I say maybe I belong to the old school. That is why, because sometimes I do sit with my grandson. He's 13 years old, and I watch, you know, all those stupid films of Salman Khan, you know. But because he doesn't want to watch something nice, you know. This is the problem, and we have to. I don't know what we will do. How to create back, you know, bring back that reading habit. And in a way, it was good, you know, during the lockdown. You know, they all had to watch Ramayana and Mahabharata. There was nothing on the TV, and in a way, it helped. It really helped. I'm not telling the. I'm telling the truth, actually. All these youngsters were watching that, and and then they had the questions. They wanted to ask many things, you know, and then we had to discuss with them. So in a way, it helped. Maybe something like that has to be done again, you know. Show them some nice videos, you know, meaningful, you know. Like you have, if interested in English, we have such nice movies, you know, like movies on Pride and Prejudice. Movies is there on My Fair Lady, you know, Shaw's Pygmalion, the play. It's a very Sound of Music. All these classics are there. I don't know why people don't watch. We should take out from the archives, you know, and make them watch. And once they will see, then they will understand the difference. You know, like Gone with the Wind by Margaret Mitchell. It's such a classic movie. It is all about, you know, the 19th century, the abolition of slavery in America, you know. And it's a beautiful, I don't know whether you have read it or not, Gone with the Wind. Red Butler and Scarlett O'Hara, the iconic character.
Scarlett O'Hara, yeah.
That is there. So you have to find out that and make them see. Ask your brother, sit and watch with your brother. Perhaps once he will see, then only he will able to make the difference between the fake and the real. Because they are not watching the real, they are watching all fake.
Yes, ma'am, it is a very good answer. And I must suggest another movie, that is To Kill a Mockingbird. and it is
Yes,
another
yes.
movie, good movie. Yeah.
Yes.
That your brother can watch. So another question, it came from the it is by Dipankar Jana. Is poetry more impressive than other forms of literature? Ma'am, you want to say anything on this question? Is poetry more impressive than other forms of literature? Yeah.
Now, as I have already said, that my first love is poetry. So my answer may be biased because I'll always speak. Because I get connected to poetry very well. But definitely, I think drama is equally very impressive, because if you go through Shakespeare, or you even like the modern absurd drama, that is also actually, the problem is that it depends on your inclination, on the readers, how caught you are, what actually attracts you. So you just read all and see what captivates you, whether you are more attracted and captivated with a drama or a poem or a novel or a short story. That will, because I personally, I am a very avid reader. I read a lot, like novels. But if you ask me, poem is my first love. Poetry is my first love. I find it very impressive if I get, and I do read, I not only English poets, but like I read Rumi, I read Gulzar, I read Ghalib, and then of course, there are the other literary poets are there, like some of the American poets are very close to me. Sylvia Plath is there, Emily Dickinson is there. Actually, friend, it depends. I cannot say that poetry is more impressive or drama is more impressive. That would be, it won't be justified. I can't justify that. Is it okay? Hello? Hello, are we got disconnected? Sukanti?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Now I am audible, I think. Now I am audible. Yeah.
You heard
yes,
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I heard your answer, and it is really going into the depth of the question. And I think the questioner has understood now, and you have really explained the question very well. Now I am asking another question. It is asked by Notavarjana. Do you think imagination has any role to play in modern literature? Kindly throw light on it. Do you think imagination has any role to play in modern literature?
Modern literature, imagination. No literature is possible without imagination. Be it modern or be it ancient. Imagination happens to be the highest creative faculty.
Sorry for the interruption, ma'am. It is modern realistic literature.
Yeah.
Modern realistic literature. You mean the realism? Do you think modern realism is do they offer it in a very crude form? No. Even realism is modified. The realism is also, polished, sophisticated. It's not presented in its crude form. So, and how does that crudity is taken away? All the vulgarity and the crudity of the modern realism undergoes certain, sophistication. So that is, and who does that? It may be the verbal felicity of the writer, that skill, and that skill takes up, there is, and then modern literature, realism also has so much symbolism in it. How can you say that it is all direct? They may claim it to be very direct, but it is not that direct as far as I think. I don't know. Maybe I don't know whether you agree with me or not, but I think there is. It may not be imaginative or like the romantics. That I agree. But realism, modern realism, fine. It is there. But do you think it is it a Xerox copy of the experience felt that day? Whatever is being written, maybe in a form of a story or a poem or maybe a novel, there are flashes. we do find touches, you know, that do away with the some roughness. If that roughness is taken away, otherwise then only it will appeal to the reader. This is how I feel it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So this interactive session has been quite fruitful, with Madam answering all the questions so beautifully and so profoundly. So I feel that we should, without imagination, there cannot be any creative art, whether it is literature, whether it is any part of art, anything that we want to do good. It is not possible without imagination, and that creative imagination should be there, and observation should be there. Yesterday I was talking with my daughter, and she said that it is happening, all the evil things are happening because people are not observing. If you observe the smile of a girl, you cannot do rape with her. If you observe how beautiful she looks, you cannot just go and destroy her. So we don't observe. We don't observe the smile of a child. We don't observe the beauty of nature. We don't observe because we don't observe, we don't feel empathetic. And because we don't feel empathetic, we do cruelty. Cruelty is coming upon us, and we are unthinkingly doing so many things to people. So let me have a prayer for all the humanity in the words of Rabindranath Tagore. अंतर मम विकसित करो अंतरत रहे, निर्मल करो उज्जवल करो सुंदर करो है, युक्त करो है सवार संगे, मुक्त करो है बंध, संचर करो सकल कर्मे संत तुम्हार छंद, चरण पद्मे मम चित्त निस्पंदित करो है, नंदित करो नंदित करो नंदित करो है, अंतर मम विकसित करो अंतर. So now I request our senior colleague, my senior colleague Pitambar Naik sir, to give his vote of thanks. Perhaps we are at the close of the session. It is raining heavily here, and maybe the network, before the network goes down, I want that our interactive session has ended, and I ask Pitambar Naik sir to give the vote of thanks before the end of the meeting. And thank, I personally, before that I thank personally our resource person, Veena Madam, for such an extensive participation in our webinar. Madam, I heartily thank you, and I feel grateful to you. Now over to Pitambar sir. Pitambar sir. Pitambar sir, unmute yourself.
Madam Sugandhi,
yeah.
Madam.
Yes, yes sir, you are audible.
Madam, audible, nahi?
Yes sir.
Thank you, Sugandhi, Madam. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. Today is an auspicious day. That is Gandhi and Shastri Jayanti. And they need no introduction. They are very close to our heart. And now I start my business, that I have to give vote of thanks. First, I would like to begin with my respected principal, Principal Sir, Sri Bajrakishore Bal, Professor of Botany, a leading botanist of Odisha. Sir, thank you very much for extending your active support and cooperation organizing this seminar. Next, I come to my dear HOD, Professor Satirani Mahanti, our friend, philosopher and guide. And thank you very much for your ever readiness to inspire us, encourage us, to support us, to help us in organizing this webinar. And next, my dear colleague, Dr. Sugandhi Mahapatra, the lady behind the lady behind organizing this webinar. She is the chief architect of organizing this webinar in series. This is the third one. And thank you very much, madam. Next, I come to Madam Guest Speaker, Professor Veena Singh, from Basanta Kanya Mahavidyalaya, affiliated to Banaras Hindu University. And this cannot be her introduction. This presence is your introduction. Madam, I am proud of you because you are a very fascinating poet and a sairist. And I am also jealous of you because I am not jealous of you because of your eloquence, of your sweet voice, of your intellectual discourse, of your deliberation. I am jealous of you from another ground, that you belong to Banaras. You belong to the land of Kashi Vishwanath, the famous hub of Hindu religion and culture, and you are very, very lucky and fortunate in this point. And we are not. And Madam, there is a magic in your voice which has mesmerized our participants, and we feel honored, very much honored in your presence. And thank you very much, Madam Sir. Namaskar. Then I come to my dear and respected participants, my loving students, and my friend in the screen, Sujata Das. She is smiling, and she is my classmate in Revensa. And during this COVID-19 pandemic crisis, organizing this seminar is a very good thing. And we cannot imagine organizing a seminar without the participants. Your active support, your participation has always encouraged us, inspired us to organize one seminar after another seminar. And thank you very much. Next, I must come to my dear student Draksha Kapana. And today is Gandhi Jayanti. You started this webinar with Ram Dun, the most favorite song of Bapuji. Thank you very much. And the last, not but the least, it is our Ankit, our favorite student. He is very, madam, she is very close to our heart. He is handsome, and his planning and coordination, his active support, his writing the certificate, everything. He is always with us. So I have a special thank. Thank you, everybody. Namaskar.
Okay. Thank you again to all of you. It is I who feel so blessed and honored and getting such a good opportunity interacting with my fellow English fraternity and the dear students. I loved every minute of it, and hopefully when COVID-19 is over and we are free from this invisible demon, we get a chance to see each other. And my dear friend, you are equally blessed. You are from the land. You must be close to Jagannath Puri, I think. So Jagannath
Yes,
is
ma'am.
there.
Yes.
The Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva, they are together. So we both are equally blessed.
You both
Thank
are
you so
equally
much.
blessed.
Thank you
Yes,
so much.
ma'am. Now,
Banaras is Banaras.
ये तो बात है, बनारस की जो कशिश है उसे आप एक बार चख लेंगे तो फिर मुक्त होना मुश्किल होगा। ये बार बार आपको खींच के ले आएगा। बनारस की बात ही कुछ और है।
बनारस की
कशिश से आप बच नहीं पाओगे। बात ही कुछ और है। ये तो मैं मानती हूँ, ये मैं मानती हूँ, क्योंकि मैं तो निकल नहीं पाई। बहुत बार निकलने की कोशिश की, लेकिन बार बार कदम वापस लौट आए बनारसी। तो ये है बनारस का जादू। ठीक है, थैंक यू फ्रेंड्स, आई टेक योर लीव नाउ। Okay, bye bye, all of you. Good luck.
Now, ma'am, before leaving, I request our principal sir to just express, speak a few words, because it may be the last webinar of this. That means before puja vacation, we may have some other webinars in November, because admission season is going on and so many works are there. So, sir, want to say anything to Bina madam? Bina madam.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Bina madam, your speech was really excellent. We enjoy it. We are happy to enjoy it. So wonderful, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
so much.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. Yes, you are really wonderful.
Wonderful.
I feel so honored. Love you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Love you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yes,
madam.
yes, ma'am. Now to all our participants, I say that the feedback form will be given in the group and it will remain there till 5 p.m. And you may fill the feedback before 5 p.m. After that, I will send you your certificates. So don't worry because I have not given the feedback form in the chat box. We were quite involved in the talk of Bina Madam. Now, before closing the meeting, I again express my heartfelt gratitude to all the participants and dignitaries. Now, give me permission.
Take a photo.
Photo is there. It is already recorded. Yeah, it is recorded, and there is the record. I will send the record or the copy of the record to Bina Madam. Madam, I will send you the record, and it will be uploaded to one YouTube channel. And it will be there in our college website. We have recorded the webinars, and now before closing it, it is heavily raining here. So I again, with thanks and gratitude, I am closing this meeting. Now, thank you, madam. Thank you.
Love you all. Thank you. Thank you. Namaste. 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 Bye bye. Bye bye. Namaste.